you can see a lot of it is migration. It's due to migration, people like me. And I call Alabama home, and anybody who says otherwise will get one of these. And you can see the movers, and moving companies actually move, they're saying they move more people in than out. We have been 6 years in a row, the state has been considered a high inbound state, meaning you have 55% or more of the moves into the state than out. So income around the highest levels is being for the state. So the positives are great. Even though personal income slumped somewhat in the third quarter, it's still at a high level. I think if the RPC makes this available for everyone, you can go and look at it. I'll have to gloss over some of it. But Alabama's unemployment rate is really below the US's, and we see it continuing. Right now, in December, with the latest data that we have, we see 12 counties with double-digit unemployment rates. The thing about it is those counties are typically small-sized counties. So, you have one closing or something, and it swings the unemployment rate really high. The state, as you see there, is a 6.7% rate. I get this often from reporters, thinking that Huntsville and Mobile are going to overtake Birmingham. It might happen, but maybe not in my lifetime. The three big MSAs next to Birmingham, Hoover, put together, don't have the same contribution to GDP, the state's GDP. So they need a lot of traction to really overtake this region. And you can see it, 33.6. I'm sorry, you have here 32.5, 10.8, 8.8, 8.7 for the next three. It doesn't add up to 32.5. Income, now we have, it used to be Huntsville was the only MSA that, had higher income, higher median family income than the US. The Auburn area is now another. And I like to think that within 6 to 12 years, at least by 2020, we might have a third MSA showing up with higher median family income as well. House prices are holding up better in the state, so it means those of us who like to usually challenge assessments may not be able to do it, not as far as the data shows. We have challenges facing the state. More job losses, and now it's also broad-based, so I would add a third bullet point, that it's quite broad-based in every sector, and that's a very big challenge. But that, we know some of it is beyond our control. Consumer spending should correct downwards, but income is also slowing, so we are having lower tax revenues. But remember what I said earlier, consumer spending, we should be expecting some correction downwards there. So it means communities and counties shouldn't be counting on sales as much, except for if we can bring many tourists in and have them spend their dollars in here. Declining revenue to fund education, and therefore, related to workforce development as well. Business optimism is declining, actually plummeting, is what the correct word. But the component of a BLC, an index we use that comes from business leaders in the state, has a higher index for Alabama than for the US. In fact, there's a 10-point differential there, and you see it in a second. I'm sorry. Now, on workforce issues, as part of some work we're doing for the state, we realized that there will be a shortfall in employment, mainly into the future by 2016 and 2025, mainly because the prime working age group is growing slower than the general population. And the second factor is our economy is growing faster than we can supply. That's why we've been seeing a lot of migrants coming in, because headhunters have to be put to work, companies have to get workers in. Now what we realize is that in the short to medium term, these are the baby boomers, those of us in this room. Anybody who's younger than that should please walk out. Oh, I'm kidding. But we are the baby boomers, okay? In 10 years from that base, here we are. A lot of us will be 65 plus. But we can solve the shortfall problem if we remain in the workforce. However, that does not mean that we can't address, we shouldn't address long-term education issues, because by 2025, most of us will be too old to work. Meanwhile, the prime working age group's growth rate is slow. And you see that there. This is the pipeline into the schools, prime working age group, general population, because we will be facing an aging population issue. So this shortfall comes up, but I'm not too worried about it. There are strategies to deal with it. It's a shortfall of about 140 to 170,000 workers by 2016 and 400 plus thousand workers by 2025. Because we can address it by making sure we improve education. With productivity increases, you don't need as many workers. So that's one way of doing it. We also have to address the high dropout rates. And that takes all of us, parents, neighbors, everybody. You can have as many formal programs to address it, but there's also the soft side of it. If we don't encourage the kids to be in school, we don't help them to stay in school, only half the solution will be achieved. So solutions, this is not showing up properly, but it should say improving education and its funding, focusing on hard-to-serve populations like out-of-school youth. Remember, this will increase productivity. We also have to get lower the dropout rate. Any ongoing programs should be continued. We also have to encourage workers, the older workforce to be in the workplace. And we should use our economic development opportunities, to bring more people in. So there are strategies to address these things. We have some trouble in finance and real estate. We have our Business Leaders Confidence Index that I mentioned earlier, and you can see the drop. This is for the first quarter of 2009, and they are seeing it drop sharply. And you can see Alabama's component versus the US's. So there's roughly 8.5. I usually round it off to 10, but sales and profits, everything falling for businesses. Capital expenditures and hiring. And not only that, but you can see my little theory that the farther away you are from the center of government, the more optimistic you are. So those in Montgomery are really low one. Except that Birmingham turns my, my theory on its head. But you can see that Mobile and Huntsville is much better. We also asked about plans for compensation, okay? And bottom line, what they say is compensation is going to be at the same level or less, and you can see it, okay? Firms will be reducing employment and hours, and this survey was carried out in the first couple of weeks of December, so you can see that what these leaders said is really showing in the first quarter.